Thing? You already taken that? Okay. All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to speech. We are getting right down to the end of the semester. I think we just have about maybe 6 classes left or something like that. So we do need to make some progress, and today what we're going to do is set you up for your persuasive speech. And so along those lines, I want to open a PowerPoint presentation. Let's see if I can actually make all that happen for us here. Persuasive speaking, there we go. So, convincing people of something that you care about passionately. This is where we're going with this particular speech today. So let's go to our PowerPoint, because I want to get this stuff in right up front. So we'll go to the computer if we would. So we'll make sure we get this stuff in before you completely lose your attention span and we start rambling at the end of the class. So this speech can be a challenging one, and it should be a challenging one. So what are we trying to do? We want to convince our audience to embrace a certain viewpoint. Take some kind of action that we think is important, or even change their beliefs or behaviors. We are exposed to this every day via advertising. Every day we're exposed to marketing that's geared toward us to get us to think new things or convince us to buy new products. So that is one form of persuasive speaking and presentation, is advertising. Buy this product instead of this product. We want to influence the audience's thoughts and attitudes through logical arguments. And argument's an important word here, because we are not only looking at the idea of trying to convince somebody with something, it's not a debate. So we're not going to make our presentation and the people are going to react to everything we say and we're going to go back and forth. Everybody will have a chance at the end of an argument to make a statement or make a response to the speaker. But argument really is, in the classical rhetorical sense, all the way back to the Greeks, the structure of how you make your persuasive speech. So it doesn't matter what your topic is. We're going to follow a similar structure because that's the way that we learn how to make an argument. So that's why sometimes people won't even use argumentative speech, they'll say persuasive speech. We will use emotional appeals, credible evidence, facts, and we're going to talk a little bit more about each one of these things. A persuasive speech typically focuses on convincing the audience that the speaker's perspective is valid and the proposed solution or idea is the best option. Here's what you should do. So, cutting to the chase. That's an old term. You know where that comes from? Anybody know what that means? Cutting to the chase? It's a film term. Get rid of all the boring stuff. Skip over the boring conversation. Get to the chase. Get to the chase scene. Get to the exciting part. What is the exciting part? In short, the goal is to persuade or inspire the audience to see things from the speaker's perspective. And I've talked about this from the very beginning, how important it is for educated people to be able to gain perspective of other people. That way you become wiser. Not everybody can do it, though. And ideally, you're going to take some kind of action based on that persuasion. Politics and religion are the easy ones to jump into and start getting all fired up about, because both of those entities encourage us to think new things or think the same things, depending on if you're a progressive or a conservative. You want to progress or you want to stay. So, we have to acknowledge, though, that some people are never going to change their mind. Ever. No matter what you tell them. So, in that sense, this becomes an exercise for you. You're going to fulfill the qualities of the assignment. You'll have the structure down. But some of us will never change our minds. And we have examples of this every day. Why not? There are a few very well-researched terms, and you get into psychology, you can start to explore this further. First thing is confirmation bias. People naturally seek out and believe information that supports what they already think. We want to hear what we already think. It makes us feel better about ourselves. And ignore or dismiss information that contradicts it. Confirmation bias. We just want to confirm what we think. The backfire effect. Sometimes giving people facts that contradict their beliefs actually makes them dig in deeper. I don't care what you say. I'm not going to believe that. Their original beliefs become stronger after being challenged. Identity protective cognition. When a belief is tied to someone's identity, group, or values, like religion, culture, or politics, changing that belief can make it feel like they're changing who they are as a person. I can't think that, or I won't be accepted in my group anymore. Carolyn, you're just in time.
Oh, man.
You just missed a little bit. It's okay. You can catch up. Watch the rest later.
Is it a provocative conversation that I would have made an opinion on, or what?
No, not yet. Not yet. We were just going through the reasons why some people will never change their minds, no matter what you say to them.
Are you hinting at me?
No.
I'd like to say I have a lot of growth in that department.
We went through a couple already. Confirmation bias, when people want to hear what makes them comfortable and confirms who they are. The backfire effect, where you tell somebody something they don't want to hear, they're going to dig their heels even in deeper. And then finally, where we were just now, the identity protective cognition, which means thinking. When a belief is tied to someone's identity, group, or values, like religion, culture, or politics, changing that belief can feel like uprooting who you are as a person, your whole identity. So they resist. So, wait, did I skip one? Oh, I missed one. Where's the other one? Okay, well, I'll worry about that later, I guess. I thought I had a second one in there. There's two more, and I'll just bring those up at a later time. They're little lesser ones, but these are primary ones. The upshot of all this is, oh, wait, there it is. Hold on a second. PowerPoints. There we go. Now I'm ready. This is a new one, just for y'all. Cognitive dissonance. People experience discomfort when confronted with facts that conflict with their beliefs. It makes you uncomfortable. Wait, I didn't know that, but I didn't really want to know that, because now I think something different than I thought before. It's messing with my mind. To ease that discomfort, they might reject the facts instead of changing their views. I'm just going to keep thinking what I think. So what? That's a fact. I don't want to hear it. How about motivated reasoning, the last one? Instead of reasoning to find truth, people often reason to protect their existing beliefs. They're subconsciously motivated to believe what they want to believe. I'm going to stick with my position, period. We've seen a lot of examples of this recently, for sure, and probably throughout all time. So what does this mean? Facts are not enough to change somebody's mind. We know a lot of things already in our brains, and that becomes who we are. We are what we think. We are the words that we say. That's why I encourage people to stay positive within themselves. Don't say, I'm stupid, I'm such a dummy, or whatever, because your body hears that, says the psychologist. So you need, in addition to facts, an emotional appeal. Trust. Somebody's got to have a reason to believe you. Some shared values. It's a little tricky in the realm of you being in your home community or your home environment, because if you're talking about something, people that are all of the same mind are pretty much going to go along with you. It's speaking to people who don't think like you is the big challenge. And one of the most important things, as I mentioned earlier, is perspective, because that will help you over time. Storytelling to make ideas stick. When you explain something from your personal point of view that's not just some fact or quote that you got out of a book, you're telling, this is how I know this. I'm not a super big fan of the gun control arguments. I have a student in Pryor whose brother was killed by a firearm, and so he wants to make an argument that there needs to be some more gun control. Okay, he's going to tell that story. And that's going to draw us in. Last year I had a student who argued against the death penalty. And I may have already mentioned this in this class before. And what she said was that we're very strong Christian people. And our relative was murdered in cold blood. But when it came time for the sentencing, we went as a family and asked the judge to give this person leniency and not give him the death penalty. Because we feel he can still be saved. He can still find heavenly glory. Even though he's murdered someone, he can be forgiven and go forward. Wow, that was pretty interesting. I wouldn't have thought like that. Someone killed my son, for example, I would probably want eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. If I didn't get to that person first, I would want the justice system to get to him, because that's tendently how we think. But if Veda made a mistake, but I killed Carolyn because that would make it okay for her, would that be okay? Probably not. You don't kill somebody else for somebody else's transgressions. Oh wait, we have a major example of that in our Western cultural history. What is that? No. Christianity. God killed his son to save all of us. There's our example of that. So if God killed his son to save all of us, why can't I kill somebody to save somebody else, if that's our model? Okay, well, hold on the native thing. Let's not just say Indians. Let's say natives. Okay, let's say natives, Native Americans, American Indians, First Nations, First Peoples, Indigenous, or one of those. Okay? So, yeah, they did. Why and why? For the land, and mostly. They wanted the land. That's an Andrew Jackson deal. So we'll go back to that. What we want to get into, if a speaker shows empathy. And I've talked about this. This is a real funny word that's come up. Why is empathy important now? Because we've just heard in the last couple of weeks that our executive in charge, Mr. Musk, that's changing the government, downsizing it for budgetary reasons and so forth. He said empathy is a what? It's a weakness. Now, over the last few weeks, we've seen what happened to Tesla stock. Whoo, right down, right? Because of what he's done. And then there was a politician that was making fun of him. He took out his phone, said, yeah, I've been following the stocks today, and I'm just loving watching Tesla go down and down and down. What's Schadenfreude? Anybody know that term? It's a German word, Schadenfreude. It's taking joy in someone else's misfortune. That's why we like slapstick comedy. You watch somebody else fall down and it's funny. You fall down, it's not so funny. Schadenfreude, enjoying somebody else's situation. So this politician is having a Schadenfreude moment with Elon Musk. Ha, ha, ha. You did all this stuff, now your stock's going down. Then what does Elon Musk say? That is so cruel, making fun of me for losing money. Wait a minute. Just a few weeks ago, you said empathy was a weakness. Which is it? Because if we feel bad for Mr. Musk because of what he's gone through and his stock's way down and people are burning Tesla cars and doing whatever they're doing, do we feel sorry for him? Do we have empathy for him? Or do we take what he says and say, not have empathy for him? I'm not making an argument, but empathy is really important because we're not seeing a lot of empathy in our society now. It's a really important thing. We don't want to make the audience feel attacked. Provoked is the word that came up. Go ahead, let's hear it.
Empathy towards what?
Let's see. That's a good question. I'll be better prepared to answer empathy questions a little bit later, but what I would say, these bridges they're building across highways. You heard of these they're nature bridges. So wildlife can get over the freeway. So they're building these giant, very expensive earth bridges kind of. They're structures, but they put earth on top of it so that major freeways, when deer and animals and whoever it is, animals want to cross that highway, instead of getting killed or making the cars wreck, they go across these natural bridges that they've made, right? This is a good thing?
I think it's gonna prevent.
How is that gonna
Hold on.
be possible?
Well, they're going on everywhere. I mean, I don't want to like pull one up right now, but we're seeing them pulled up in California especially, where there's a high volume of traffic. North Carolina, trying to preserve endangered populations of animals, red wolves, whatever it is they're trying to help.
I'm not questioning you, I'm questioning the design of the bridge. Like,
We just want to see one?
Are they funneling it?
No, it goes over.
animals through it?
No, it goes over the top. Let's make it animal crossing bridges. And you can look more into this later on.
Yeah,
Um,
it's interesting.
Here you go. So there's multiple examples here. Here's an actual one at Yellowstone. What's funny?
The cartoon stuff that I pulled over you.
Okay, so California recent. Without going too much further. Okay, non-cartoons. Feel better?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so let's go Control Plus and just make some of these bigger. So that's what they're doing. They're building these bridges across highways so animals can get across. Okay? Because what's happening? Animals are either getting killed as they're going across, like a lot of them. Do we care? Empathy. Cars are running into animals. Who's hit a deer in here?
My brother hit a deer yesterday.
Okay, well there you go. And what happens?
Oh, well, he was okay, but it could have been a bad deal.
Yeah, totals your car, messes it
He has to have
up.
a new car now, yeah.
So, but who cares? Oh, empathy, concern. So when we talk about empathy, it's whether or not you can even feel what somebody else is feeling. You're walking out of the building here, there's a little baby sitting down in the grass crying, and there's no adults around. Do you just walk by and go to the next building? Or do you stop and like, hey baby, what are you doing here? You typically would do that. You're an adult, you feel concerned, you have empathy. You think when Jesus was hanging up there on the cross, he didn't have empathy for all the humans coming after him so they could all be saved and have eternal glory? Isn't that empathy? Love, right? So if you can express some empathy to what people are feeling and understanding, then you can have a little more impact than just bringing out a bunch of facts. So let's go back to our slide presentation here. You don't want an audience to feel attacked unless you're put in a confrontational situation, which I've been put in before. People want me to come talk to people that didn't think like some people thought they should think like, and so they bring me in to talk about it. And it's challenging. So how do we do this? Well, there are a few different kinds of appeals that we can make. One is ethos. We want to appeal to credibility or character. So we're looking at the trustworthiness of the speaker. Do we believe them? Do they have credibility? Do they have any kind of experiential background that we can accept as an official status on this subject? So myself, I was in the United States Army, 3 years active, 1 year reserve. So I'm a veteran. So as a result of that, when it comes to veterans issues, at least I can say I'm a veteran and have had that experience. But I was never in combat. So I never got shot at and I never shot anybody. So I don't have that level of veterans experience. Frankly, I'm happy about that. I feel fortunate that I wasn't in that situation. I missed it by 2 weeks, which is all fine. Meaning my replacement went to a combat zone. So lucky me. So when we start to talk about things, we want to have some grounding in where we're coming from. I've mentioned to you before, I've worked in the news business. I worked for NBC News for 2 years, and I worked for a local news operation for a year, so I've been a news reporter. I know what that's about. I worked for a political consultant for almost 2 years, writing mail and studying how politics works at the commercial level, like how you pay somebody to do your campaign. And I say do that because mostly I did writing, is what I did. So I have the perspective of how political consultants influence us and the data that they use to get to us, and then what they present to us based on the data that they have. So in addition to that, and I'm not like going on about myself, I'm trying to give you examples. I've worked in radio since I was 16. I'm 63 now. Almost 50 years I've been doing radio, one form or another. So I know a lot about it. I could talk a lot about radio programming and how it works and just the system and the legal aspects of it. So I'm very familiar with it. I've been on television here at RSU for 25 years. So I have the experience of being on TV. I know what that's like. So I can talk about these things. I have a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in English. So as a result of that, I'm pretty good on the English language. I'm also pretty good in literature, the history of literature, creative writing, etc. I've made, I don't know, over 100 videos, edited them, so I'm a pretty good video editor, so I could talk about that. And there are other things that I've done and do and could talk about, maybe playing guitar a little bit, although I'm not an expert at all. So you want to find something that you care about, that matters, but it's that expertise of the teacher or the speaker or whoever it is that creates belief in your audience. So what's another way? Pathos. That's a second one. Can we have that back on the screen for a second so I can show it to everybody? Danilo? Thank you. An appeal to emotion, persuading by evoking strong feelings in the audience. Getting to a point where your audience cares as much about the subject as you do. They really feel it because you feel it. You're able to tell an emotional story about why it's important to you. Emotion can be really challenging for the speaker. Carolyn got a little emotional when she was talking about the significance of dogs and how they can help your lives. And she kind of gathered herself, and I was trying to tell her that emotion's not bad. It draws us in. When somebody gets upset, it's like, uh-oh, what's going to happen? There's some drama going on here. But it also shows that person really cares about that subject. It really matters to them. So emotion's not bad, but on the other hand, we do have to learn how to kind of control our emotion and get to a point where we feel those moments. The deep breath technique is a good one from a long time ago. If you just you don't have to do it now or anything, but if you go, you'll feel better. So the trick is to go, not go, right? But let it out and you'll feel better. It calms you down. But it's okay to be emotional. Some things make us really emotional. I can make myself emotional by talking about certain subjects. But I don't want to do that right now. Things that really matter to me or are really important to me or get me emotional or a little bit teary because of how important they are to me. So it's okay to try and evoke strong feelings in the audience. Next one is logos. We're going to appeal to logic or reason. So we're going to use facts, and we're going to use evidence and a rational argument, real things. When you talk a little bit more about what you can or can't argue, it's pretty wide open with that regard. But it has to fall in a couple of categories. Let's go this way. Let's check this next one out. Personal investment. This is really important in persuasive speech. Your credibility is at stake when you explain to us why you're personally invested in this subject. You come across more trustworthy and credible. We're more likely to listen to you because we know that you're coming from a place of knowledge and expertise. If anybody in here wanted to know about language acquisition, there'd be two people to talk to. And one would be Athena, because she's taught multiple languages, and another would be me, because I have a PhD level expertise in second language acquisition. So I could talk about that. I tested out of it. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to make sure I had a second job. If everything else failed, I knew I could go teach English somewhere with that credential and credibility. The audience is more likely to listen. Passion and authenticity. When you're personally invested in the topic, your passion naturally comes through. The emotional energy is contagious. It draws the audience in and helps connect. So the last couple of things we want to make on this one, it provides a stronger connection. If you have a personal story or example or an emotional tie to the subject, it humanizes the message. It's not just fact, 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 fact. Here's why this is important to me. Here's why I really, really care about this subject. And people are more likely to be persuaded if they feel like you have some connection or investment to the whole story. And I've thought of a few stories, but I'm going to hold off. And what humanizes a person? Things maybe you don't expect them to say. We don't know each other. You don't really know the depth of me. I don't really know the depth of any of you. With surface level knowledge. What I say in class, what you all talk about in your speeches. That's about it. So sometimes you can bring something out that might surprise your audience and make them think, whoa, I didn't really think that you would think about that kind of thing, or you would even be connected to that subject, or it would matter to you in any way whatsoever. Because this persuasive stuff is where you get into sensitive topics, because what you care about. And personal experience also brings a deeper understanding to the nuances of a situation. So that's why Aiden, I checked you a little bit earlier on just saying Indians. We just don't say that anymore. And that's a good thing for you to know in the college environment. We just don't say it. We say Native, we say Native Americans, Indigenous, or if we really know someone, we say what tribe they are. Oh, they're Cherokee, they're Kiowa, they're Muskogee, they're Osage. Any of those kinds of things. Well, okay, hold on a second on that. The question is derogatory term. And Carol, I know you had something there.
No, I was not gonna say derogatory, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Why has that maybe become inappropriate?
Well, because it's not, well, what's an Indian?
Someone from India.
Tread lightly.
Oh, somebody from India. Yeah, somebody from India. Okay, that's one way to go with it. Where'd the term Indian come from?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
No, you didn't ask me where it came from. You asked me if it was like somehow derogatory.
You could answer anything about it, I just don't know, so.
Okay, well, here I'm trying to fill you in then. So Indians never call themselves Indians. Europeans called native people Indians, right? Indios. So, and you know, I'm not going to go down the whole history path or anything, but native people, in my understanding, would prefer to be called what tribe they are, as opposed to just Indians. So you don't see anything, you see the Museum of the American Indian. Now, if you say American Indian, that's a highly formal academic way to say it, because that implies they're from the Americas. But when we see our beautiful museum that's in Oklahoma City now, the FAM, what's that stand for? First Americans Museum. What do the Cherokee call native people? Indians. What's the word for, it's a really long Cherokee word. The ones who were already here. That's what it translates out to. And a lot of tribes have names for themselves as people. So, and they will use skin color as well. So, Istajadi in the Muskogee language. Ishti is person, Jadi is red person. Ishtalusti. Ishti, person, lusty, black person. Ishti Hutki. Ishti, person, Hutki, white person. Ishti Lani, Asian, yellow person. Are Asian people really yellow? Are we really white? Are black people really black? Are native people really red? You know, it's a color judgment, I guess, but not really. But that's what's come down. Oklahoma, what's it mean? Lived here a long time, right? Took Oklahoma history somewhere in ninth grade, I expect.
Didn't pay attention.
Obviously. Land of the red people. That's what it means. Indian country. Right? Indian territory is what this is. My grandmother's birth certificate didn't say Oklahoma, it said Indian territory on it. Because that's what it was before it was Oklahoma. It was a big dumping ground for Native people from all around North America. Essentially a federal prison for Native people. Why do you say that? Because they couldn't leave. What's the story of Standing Bear? Anybody know it? Ponca Chief Standing Bear, removed with his Ponca people from Nebraska to northern Oklahoma, where the conditions were awful. They started to get all kinds of diseases. People started to die. Standing Bear's son said, will you please take me back to the traditional burial grounds along the Niobrara River in Nebraska? Standing Bear said, I sure will. Son died. Standing Bear gets some of his family together, takes off. Gets him buried. On his way back, what happens? Gets accosted by the military. What happens then? He gets arrested and put in jail. Why is he put in jail? We're talking the 1870s here. Why is he put in jail? Because he's not supposed to leave his reservation. So then it became, what was the question? Took him to court. Why was he being held? Well, you can't leave your reservation. Why not? Well, we're not sure for sure, but you just can't. So, and then he, through his interpreter, learning about American ways, said, well, am I not covered by the Constitution? Well, that was an interesting question. The judge said, well, we have to determine that. Why do we have to determine that? Because the Constitution covers what? All humans in the United States, right? That's who we basically are covering. Well, at the time, Native people weren't thought to be humans. They were not fully complete humans. So they weren't included. So what Standing Bear said, you go, wait a minute. This is his famous thing. If I stab myself or cut myself with a knife, the blood's gonna come out, it's gonna be red. And if I take any other who's full white person in here, Aiden, are you Native? White? Anglo-European background? Okay. So if I'm a Native person, cut me, I'm gonna get red. If I cut you, what am I gonna get? Red. So what's Standing Bear say? Same God made us both. How come there's one set of rules for the white man and another set of rules for me? So what the judge had to decide first was whether Standing Bear was actually a human being. That's why there's a giant statue of Ponca Chief Standing Bear. That's why Ponca Chief Standing Bear should definitely be part of our K through 12 history and social studies curriculum. He's really the first civil rights leader in history in a lot of ways, in American history anyway. But those stories are, to the Ponca people, are super important. There's a big statue there. Every year they have a Ponca powwow. We remember this story. There's documentaries about him. But people don't know about him. But we know a lot of other dumb stuff that's not true. That's part of our history now. So when you talk about these things, I want you to come from a place of knowledge. And I'm not, in a situation where I just know a lot of stuff. I've been around for a while. I've been teaching for a long time. I know a lot of stuff. That's why early on we had the impassioned discussion about the Bible. The Bible as literature, for example. The Bible is literature. It's got stories in it. It's got poems in it. It's got songs in it. It's got morality in it. It's literature. But it's also sacred literature. It goes in that category. Just like the Quran. Sacred literature. A group of people feel it's sacred. It's the Word of God. Okay, good. So then we also talked about, and this would be a perfect argument, if somebody wanted to go down this road, what Bible should you use? We talked about this. What Bible? The Greek one, the original Greek, the Roman Catholic one, where they took some stuff out. The Protestant one, what Protestant means what? It's a protest. A lot of people talking about the protests going on this Saturday. What's Protestantism? It's a protest. It was Martin Luther. He said the Catholic ways are not for us. We want a religion for the people. We're going to do it this way. Protestant, protest, Protestantism. So our Bible is not going to have some of the stuff that was in the Catholic Bible. That becomes a King James Bible. What do you know about King James? The words that he changed in the translation so it would reflect his particular values. Important. Historical development of sacred literature. Jump up, let's just go with the fourth one, like a new international standardized version that's easier to read than the one that came from the 1500s, the language of Shakespeare. Okay, which one should we go with? That'd be a really good argument for somebody who really cares about it. Something I was interested in as I became more aware of all the different versions of the Bible, which I didn't know, frankly, until maybe 20 years ago. But I found that interesting. So that kind of thing you could argue. What's your personal investment? You care. You're a Christian. You're interested in the full body of knowledge of Christianity and the history of it. Or if you're interested in the full body of knowledge, not everybody is. Because of the facts thing that we talked about earlier. When you get in a certain group, that's your group. We believe this, period. Talk to the hand. Okay, let's go back to our slides. We want to get through these today. I think I got through all these. Yes. Speaking about something you care about or know well makes you more confident. That helps you reduce your nervousness and makes your speech more engaging. I don't think I'm going to go back to it. Don't really have time, but I want to point out, we just mentioned a second ago, Cory Booker's speech. That was 25 hours long. No matter which side you're on. That's now the longest speech ever in the U.S. Senate. And he did it to illustrate a lot of the issues that he feels are going south with regard to the current administration. But that's fine. He's on that side of the aisle. How do you do that? I was interested. His assistant's got 17 notebooks full of information, letters from constituents, and that's what he did for 25 hours. No bathroom break, no food break. Pretty darn impressive. Why is that so impressive? I asked ChatGPT. What do you want to do? Protest against the policies of the current president's administration, particularly actions affecting women and undocumented immigrants. He read letters from constituents, articles, and other materials to highlight the challenges faced by Americans under the current administration. Emotional moment. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer acknowledged Booker's achievement during the speech, leading to an emotional reaction from Booker and applause from fellow lawmakers. There's that emotion being brought out. Despite its length, the speech was not a filibuster, as it wasn't intended to block legislation, but to draw attention to perceived national crises. Booker's speech broke the record previously held by Senator Strom Thurmond, who spoke for 24 hours and 18 minutes in 1957 in opposition to the Civil Rights Act, because he was a segregationist Southerner. So that was the last long talk. So he was emotionally invested, obviously prepared. I'll go back to my talk here. But no matter which side of the aisle you're on, what do you care about enough to speak for 25 hours? And what do you care enough about to try and convince someone to change their mind? I think of about 5 things I would say, but I'm going to stop at that. What do you care about? And let's make sure we have this in our heads. A fact is a statement that can be proven true or false, based on evidence or reality. Evidence or reality. It's objective and verifiable. Water boils at 100 degrees centigrade at sea level. Fact? Any arguments? No, because it's fact. This is a pen, right? Fact. If I say this is a pencil, that's not correct. It's not a fact. It's a pen. What's an opinion? A personal belief, view, or judgment that is subjective and based on individual feelings or preferences. It's just what you feel. It's your preference. Chocolate ice cream is the best flavor. Well, some people prefer other flavors. So as we go through this, we want to make sure that we are set on this, because we want to call out something that's not a fact. When we talk in a courtroom, you might hear some courtroom show say conjecture. Like, a lawyer stands up and he goes, conjecture. And the judge will say sustained or overruled. because conjecture is a guess or supposition. If you do so-and-so, conjecture. If this were this way, conjecture. This might happen, conjecture. So that's a really important point with all this. 10 minutes? Okay, I have just 2 more to get in and we'll be good. Your thesis statement. This is where we're going to be next Tuesday. Everybody's got to have a thesis statement and an outline that's going to follow the outline that I'm going to show you here. And that's basically what we're going to be working on in class. We talk a little more about it. But everybody should have a statement like this. And this is something that you use in all your comp classes. Whatever your subject is, followed by an opinion about that subject, followed by 3 controlling ideas, A, B, and C. Think of that second plus mark as a because. And think about an argument worth making, something that is significant. Chocolate ice cream is the best because A, B, and C. Not enough. Not really going to change our minds anyway. What do you care enough about? But not only do you care enough about, but you want other people to think that way as well. That's based in reality and fact. So the biblical discussion is a good one because that's fact. Those books are facts. They came out at a certain time. We are where we are now with them, but your argument and opinion would be which one is the best one. As I've said before, Rogers State University is a good school because of the relatively small classes, the affordability, and the proximity to an urban area without being in it. Okay, that's a thesis. Somebody else might say, RSU is not a big enough school for me. I want bigger classes, and I want to live in a city. And so that would be your opposing side. Got to have the opposite side, and that leads us up to the next element of this, which is the rhetorical structure. Go ahead, full screen on this one if you would, Danilo. Thank you. So how are you going to set this up? How are you going to arrange it? Some kind of attention getter. This could use one of those appeals. Ethical, logical, emotional. Introduce your thesis. Native American mascots should not be part of public schools because they stereotype all Native people as one monolithic race. They make light of significant cultural traditions, and they encourage anti-Native American imagery. What's the opposite side? We're honoring Native people. Okay, well, let's look at how you're honoring them and then make our statement again. So that's a controversial topic that I've talked a lot about and worked on a lot with. Why does that matter to me? Because of my involvement in Indian country. And here's something for you, Aiden. Indian country is a formal term by the federal government. That's land that is a reservation. So we do still see that term in legality. Indian country. It still exists from the 1800s. Never been changed. Right now, we're in Indian country. We're on the Cherokee Reservation, right here. We're on Rogers State, the state land and all that, but we're within the Cherokee Reservation. If we go to Tulsa, we're on the Muskogee Nation Reservation. Go a little further north, we're on the Osage Reservation. Okay, so all of that being said, once you make your personal investment, why you care about it, then you break down each controlling idea with factual support. So not, this Bible is the best one because my pastor says so, I think so, and I bought it from an advertisement in a Christian magazine. It's got to be more factually based than that. This one came out then, this one came out then, this one came out then, this scholar says this about this one, says something about this one. Okay, get to the end, and that's this second column over here. What's the opposite side? And that's really important because that's perspective. You at least understand the opposite side. There's a lot of ways we could go with this. We just have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to hold off on making any major statements. But that opposite side is really important. You need to understand the opposite side. Why are they doing this? You know, why? I keep going back to the most factually inaccurate person I've heard in a long time, part of our state government, but I'm going to avoid that for right now. I think it's important for you to be able to look at any other point of view from something that you believe completely. You're stuck in your fact land. This is who I am. This is what I believe. You can't change it. This assignment requires you to at least understand the other side of the question with factual support. Then blow it up, break it down. Say, that was a completely ridiculous way to think about this subject. And here's why. So you refute it. You offer a rebuttal to that opposite side. Then you'll restate your thesis at the end. And finally, and this should have the question mark at the end, call to action. So I don't know if it'll let me do this easily. Let's go down here, see if it'll let me go this. Come on, type for me. There you go. That's not the most aesthetically pleasing, but after your call to action, which is, so go do this, think this way, neuter and spay your companion animals, whatever it is that you think is really important. But remember, your morals will come into this in your call to action. Let's come back to me for a second. So just think in your minds, in different classes I've taken votes on this. You know what euthanasia is, right? Euthanasia? Mercy killing, right? Someone's got terminal disease, they want to inject themselves with something so they can die peacefully and not suffer anymore, right? Euthanasia. Okay, death penalty, we know what that is, killing somebody for some crime they've committed. Abortion, we know what that is, terminating a pregnancy, right? And human sacrifice, we know what that is, right? Sacrificing someone for the potential benefit of everybody else. And we have examples of that not only in our history, well, our cultural, religious history, but also our American history. So there were native people who conducted human sacrifices, all the way back to the Aztecs, and right up through, my understanding, the last group were the Pawnee that had a human sacrifice in the early 1800s. It's called the Morning Star Ceremony. I won't go into it. You can find out all you want to about it online. But here's 4 examples of life being terminated. Which one's okay? You don't have to answer. It's rhetorical. Euthanasia seems humane. We have empathy. Yeah, okay. Death penalty? Well, there's good reasons and bad reasons. We have a firing squad now. You can choose the firing squad. Abortion, terminating a pregnancy, good or bad? Well, of course, a lot of people are very emotional about that. It's an important issue. Human sacrifice, we don't see it so much in contemporary society, although it's part of our system. It's part of our Christian system. Since Jesus was a person, he was sacrificed. So, which of these is okay? Well, your own morality makes you choose which one of these is okay. And it's always interesting to see votes on this. Because some people who are like in favor of euthanasia are not in favor of abortion, or they're in favor of the death penalty, but they're not in favor of euthanasia, or vice versa. So it's a really good example of how this is the same thing, terminating a life, but under different circumstances. So we always want to remember that there can be a compromise at the end. When you restate your thesis and you're trying to solve this, a compromise is okay, where you can bring the best ideas together from everybody to come up with a good solution for as many people as possible without leaving out the least, because the weakest link of a chain will break it. So we're going to come back next Monday, thesis statements and outlines, and we're going to get talking next Wednesday.